Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. Yes, we are continuing with our D-Day air assault build to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings. And today we're going to look at the vehicles, the ground vehicles. So, let's get on with it. So yes, we're going to start with the ground vehicles today. Now, basically, I think I mentioned it before, but I can't remember. This set is basically a consolidation of several other sets. So you've got the Typhoon, which obviously you can buy on its own. These three vehicles, the Standard, the Bedford, and the Bike, you can buy separately as, I think it's the RAF World War II ground vehicle set or something like that. And then the troops you can buy as a different set as well. I don't think you can buy the base on its own. I'm not sure. But let's get these out of the box and have a look. Right, I'm not going to go through the whole box like I did before. If you want to see everything else, you can go back and watch the previous video, or the beginning of the previous video. But let's have a look at what we have here. I don't know if I'm going to do all three vehicles on camera. We'll see how it goes, because get out of the way, because it might be a bit time consuming. Now, it looks like what they've done is they've got one vehicle on here and one vehicle on this sprue, which is quite handy. This is all the glass for both, by the looks of it. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. They've the firewall is part of the windscreen for the I don't know which one this is for, but we'll figure that out as we get to it. But yes, the firewall is the windscreen and firewall are all one part. That's kind of cool, actually. Now, this looks to be in a similar sort of state to the Typhoon. Relatively good, not too much in the way of flashing. Although I dare say there will be mould lines and things to deal with, as ever. Now, let's just look at the box again for a second quickly. Because I just want to talk about the colour scheme very quickly. Now, these vehicles are basically black and brown. It's a fairly simple thing. But one thing we have to keep in mind is that there are multiple types of black. So obviously we've got the rubber tyres, we have the black for the metal work and the woodwork, and then obviously we have the canvas bits. So we're going to be using some different blacks, so it should be quite interesting. One other thing that actually caught my eye, the petrol cap or the fuel filler cap on this Bedford is red. And it's something that I must admit I chuckled when I saw it, because this is something that is still in use in the British Army today, and the colour of the fuel cap on a lot of the vehicles denotes what type of fuel it has. So if it's a red fuel cap, it means it's petrol. And if it's a yellow fuel cap, it means it's diesel. So there you go, a little bit of trivia for you. So, which one do we do first? Do you know what, actually, I think these bits might be a bit mixed up. Or are they? Yeah, they are. Because you've got the tank for the Bedford, there's half of it there and half of it there. So it looks like they are mixed up a bit. But I think what we'll do is we might start with the Tilly. We'll do that one first, I think. We might have to go from different bits, but that's fine. Now the instructions, yeah, we'll do the Tilly because that's what's next in the instructions. The instruction booklet for all of it's basically all of the models are all in one booklet. So yeah, let's start with that. Right, let's cut some bits off. Right, now to get started, I'm going to start with these clear pieces, because what they've done, and it's actually quite a good idea in a way, all of the windows and everything, especially on the Standard, they've actually made them, they've molded them into the various bits. So like this is the roof of the cab, but you can see it has a window on each side. So rather than make those windows as a separate piece, they've actually made them just part of the roof. And as I mentioned before, the windscreen is part of the firewall. The windows in the doors are basically part of the door. So you can just mask those up and then just paint the rest of it. So that's, I think, what I'm going to do first is mask all these bits up. So let's get these bits cut off. And I won't make you sit through masking all of it, but I'll show you a couple of bits, because it's something that I get asked about quite a lot, is like how to mask canopies and things. And this is, you know, pretty much, it's the same principle, whether you're doing a canopy or, you know, anything like this. So let's just get these bits snipped off and cleaned up, and then we'll look at ways of masking glass. Right, so the first thing we need to do is get a new blade on the scalpel, because although this is a fairly new blade, it's not new enough. I always find it's a good idea to put a new blade on whenever you're doing anything like this, because you want that as sharp as possible. So this is how you change a blade without cutting your fingers, is basically hold it with something like that, you see. So that's that. Now what we're going to do is get some masking tape, and I'm going to use this Tamiya 10mm tape. It's too big really for what we're doing, but it will work. So actually, I'm just going to move that camera slightly. That's more like it. Right, so I will start with one of the doors. And what you've got on the outside of the door, and it's very difficult to see, but I'll try and get the light to catch it. Around the outside, around here, there is a ridge. There's also a divider here, because these side windows, according to the plan, were actually like, they weren't glass, they were like clear plastic or something, and they had this little bit at the bottom here, like this little triangular bit that actually folded open to make a window. So, but we've got the metal frame of the door there. So what we're going to do is take a piece of tape. We just need a little bit. Scissors would help. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop that just loosely, and I'm lining it up with the bottom edge of the door there. We're just going to put that on just kind of loose to start with. And then we take a cocktail stick and my glasses so I can see what I'm doing. And what we want to do is just work the tape into the corners like that. And we'll do the same on this bit here. Like that, you see. Then we take our knife and we very, very carefully, without cutting our fingers, go around the edge. And you don't want to push too hard. You just want to cut the tape. If you push too hard, you'll mark the plastic, which is not the end of the world at this point, because it is in, you know, it's in a corner, so it's not too bad. But try and avoid doing it if you can. It's just good practice. And we just go all the way around the edge like that. And we'll do the same in here. And then hopefully, when we pull this bit off, just be very careful when you're pulling it, because if you haven't got right into the corner, you might end up pulling all the tape off. So just be careful as you're going around the corners and everything, just to make sure that you've actually cut all the way through it. You see that bit in that corner there is still gripped. And hopefully we pull that off like that, and there we go. And then again, just take your cocktail stick and just work around the edges and make sure they're firmly pressed down, and it's as easy as that. So obviously we need to mask the back of it as well, but I'll just put a piece right across the back to do that, and then that will be ready to be painted. For the windscreen, I'm going to do the same thing. There actually isn't a bevel on the edge of this, so it's a slightly different thing because we don't have anything to work up against, but it's not the end of the world, because all we do is, again, take a piece of our tape and stick that on, and again I'm going to line it up with the bottom of the windscreen like that. Now this does have a wiper blade there, but I'm not going to cut around that. I'll paint that afterwards. But what we want to do here is just try and get a little bit of a reveal around the edge. Just like that. Now, let's see how that worked. Like that, you see. And again, I'll just put a piece of tape across the whole of the inside, just to make sure we don't get any overspray on the inside of it. So I will do the rest of these, and then we can start thinking about putting some paint on some of these things, I think. Right, I've done a few little sub-assemblies just off camera. I just stuck the sides on to the bed. I also stuck the where is it? The front suspension onto the chassis, and a couple of other little bits like that. But we are now ready to start some painting. So we are going to start off using this XF85 flat, or rubber black rather, to paint the tyres. Like that. And I'm also going to use it just to quickly paint the inside of the cab here, just the front bulkhead, the firewall, basically because I want to get there's a decal that needs to go in here, and I want to get it in place. There we go. Right, now we're going to start painting some of the bodywork with this XF49 khaki. I was going to use flat earth originally, but I think I prefer this. Right, while we've got the khaki in the brush, we're going to paint the wheels. We've obviously already painted the tyres with our XF85 rubber black. Now we need to paint the wheels themselves. Now I'm going to show you a quick way to do this. A lot of you have probably seen this before, but I think it's worth repeating. So what I have here is a circle template. You can get these from stationers or Amazon or wherever. I'll put a link in the description to where you can get one, but obviously shop around. But basically what you do is line up the appropriately sized hole stop laughing at the back, with your wheel, which in this case is 5.5 millimeters, make sure it's nice and straight and lined up. Take your airbrush and give it a spritz, and there you have one perfectly painted wheel. And it's yeah, a very simple way of painting wheels without having to mess around with masking up and whatnot. So I'll get on and do the rest of these and we'll go on from there. Right, and while we're waiting for that khaki to dry, we're going to turn our attention to the top, and we're going to use this NATO Black XF69. Stop laughing at the back. Right, and we'll let that dry, and then we're going to give that a little bit of treatment to make it look a bit more canvassy. Right, so the next step for the roof is I'm going to give it a dry brush with this medium sea grey XF83. And basically what I want to do is I want to pick out the highlights. I don't know where you can see that, but like in the folds in the canvas and the ridges where the metal poles are and all that kind of stuff. So let's see how well this works out. So I've just got an old brush here. I don't know how well this paint's going to work, but I want to give it a fairly hefty dry brush like that. I mean, it looks horrendous to start with, but there is method in my madness. This is effectively the if you like, the brush version of mottling. But what I want to do, as I say, is pick out as many of the sort of highlights on the canvas as I can. So as I say, I know it looks horrendous, but there is a reason for it. As I say, I want to get all these, you can see all the details starting to show up, and that's what I'm after. Alright, let's see if we can get some on the front here. And we also want to get some on this rolled up canvas on the back. And so we want to kind of hit it pretty hard. Because it's one of those things that you may have noticed if you've used Tamiya paints, as it starts to dry, you'll see it started to fade a bit. So it's one of these things that when you first look at it, it looks horrendous, but it will actually tone down as it dries. Right, that doesn't look too bad. And what I also want to do while I'm at it is I want to get in to the back of the body here. Might need a bit more paint actually. And get some wear on the inside here. So this is more sort of like where people have been, you know, climbing in and out and, you know, sliding across the seats and all that kind of thing. And also I want to get some in the back here where stuff's been sort of, you know, sliding things in and out of the back, boxes and crates and whatever else. And the same thing in the driver's compartment on the floor. I want to just wear the floor a little bit on the passenger side as well. But again, it's just where, you know, people have been working the pedals and whatnot, and it's worn the paint off the floor like that. So again, not too much. And the other thing we need to do, where is it? There it is. We also need to do the tailgate. Now I'm toying with the idea of having this tailgate open. So I think what I'm going to do is just do the whole thing inside and out with this. But especially so the tailgate when it's open would be like that. So again, the inside of the bottom edge would receive a lot of abuse, again, from stuff being, you know, dragged in and out of the back and people climbing in and out and whatnot. And then again, the top edge, just from being handled. Alright, I think that might be enough. Like I say, we don't need to go mad with it, it's just to, so it doesn't look quite so, you know, uniform. But what we're going to do next is go back to this roof again and tone that down a bit. Right, so what I've done is I've taken the same NATO black that I used before, but I've thinned it right down. This is about 20% paint and the rest is thinner. And I'm just going to mist this over the top and just kind of blend it all together a bit. It's funny actually doing this because I've had a lot of people ask me about doing like mottling but without using an airbrush, and this is kind of one way of doing it. I might have to do a video one day and see if I can figure out how to do it without how to like do mottling like this without having an airbrush. Right, so there we go. We'll let this dry and see what it looks like. But my daughter's just turned up. So hello, Katie.
Hello, Katie.
What are you after?
I wanted to show you some.
Anyway, so just before I wrap this bit up, that's the top now. So you can see that now it's dried. That's toned that grey down quite nicely, and it now looks nicely like some dark canvas catching the light. So we'll leave that to one side, and I will think about what we're going to do next. Yes, I think we're going to have to do possibly, I need to put a decal on the dashboard, and then after that I think we're going to do a little bit of assembly.
Ooh.
Anyway, say goodbye, Katie.
Goodbye, Katie.
Right, onwards. Right, decal time. Well, just one anyway. There's this one here is the dashboard, so the instrument cluster. So I'm going to put this on now because obviously it'll be a lot easier to do it now than to do it when it's all, you know, the cab's all put together. So that goes, where is it? On here, and it goes right there. So, oh hang on, I think she's coming back.
I left my phone here.
You do that a lot, both of you do. I'll tell you, seriously, my kids, when it comes to leaving phones laying around, it's like, I don't know what it is, right? Maybe it's just me. I've had mobile phones for years, literally decades. I think since mobile phones or portable cell phones were first a thing, I have had mobile phones for work. And because I was on call in one form or another in the various careers that I've had, I always had to have the phone with me. And so I've basically got to a situation. Hang on, I'm just looking for my Decals setter. There it is. Ah! Oh, Mr. Mark. I have always been somewhat paranoid about where my phone is and having it on my person, to the extent that if I ever don't have my phone with me, it makes me gives me some anxiety as it goes. And yet my kids, they just leave their phones everywhere. It's just, well, it defies logic, quite frankly. But anyway, now let's put this on. I don't know which way around it goes, but I don't suppose it really matters that much. All right, let's see if we can get this in here. All right, let's pop that on there, like that. Oh, blimey, I think I hit that pretty much spot on first time. I'm going to use one of these pointed cotton buds, because this is quite an awkward little bit to get at. And I'm also doing this without my glasses on, which is silly. Right, it's kind of funny actually, because having put that on, there's a couple of buttons and things in the middle which are black, and now you just can't see. But anyway, so that's that on. That was easy enough. We'll what we're gonna do now, we'll leave this, let this dry for a little while, and then I think we need to think about some kind of partial assembly, because the paint scheme on this requires a few different bits. So let's let this dry, and then I'll show you how I'm going to proceed with putting this together and painting it. Right, so as I said, the next step is to put the black on the body. Now the design in the plan is actually slightly different to the design in the box. It's not far off, but basically it's like the grille and the wings are black. The bonnet is just like two-tone black and brown, and then you've got these kind of circular effects on the sides and on the back there. So let's see how we can recreate those. So what we need to do is because I want to paint as much of the black as possible at once if I can. I don't want to have to keep changing out the brush. So let's see how this works. Now that goes on there. Oh, if I can get it on straight. That's it. And then the door is going to go something like that. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to try a little experiment here. Where's it gone? There it is. I'm going to try using this masking putty and see if that works, because I think doing this with tape would be quite difficult. I mean, you could, but it'd just be a lot of faff. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten this out, and I want to basically kind of cover the side. As much as possible. Excuse the screaming in the background. The neighbour's kids have just come home from school. It's all perfectly above board, I assure you. Now, also the inside of the wheel arches apparently remain brown. So I think what we'll do is we'll just work this in to the wheel arch like that, just to kind of keep it from getting too much overspray on it. Put another little bit more in there. Now, what I'm thinking, because it's kind of this like circular shapes, so let me see. So this is a bit of evergreen tubing, and what I'm going to do, if I can find my scalpel, it might be easy to sand this actually. I'm going to try and cut this into a kind of a circular shape, like almost like a gasket punch or something like that. Hang on, let me trim this out and I'll show you. So I've just sanded that down to kind of an edge, if you like. And what I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try it. I might need to just clean it up a bit more. But what I'm hoping I can do is just do that. Right, now this is going to go everywhere, unfortunately. And let's just see if this, oh, how if I use the right end. Yeah, I think that will work. I mean, to be honest, it would probably be better to do this with a bit of metal pipe, but I don't have a piece to hand at the moment. I might see if I can find a bit. But that gives you an idea anyway, so I'll basically work on the rest of this, get the other bits masked up, and then we can put some of this black on it. Right, now everything's masked up, we can start off with some flat black and do all these different bits. Right, I'll do all the rest of these, then we'll unmask it and see what they look like. Right, let's see if we can get this stuff off and see what it looks like. Oh, that's stuck very well. There we go. Right, that doesn't look terrible.
Power off.
That was the Bluetooth speaker. Japan has decided it's had enough. Anyway, right, that's all right. Let's have a look at this. Right, that doesn't look too bad, does it? Yeah, I think that'll work. Right, I'll get the rest of this unmasked, and then I think we might be in a position to start putting some of these bits together. Right, I think we're ready to put a bit of this together. So we'll put some of that on there, and we will pop that in the appropriate spot. Right, now we want to put the firewall on. Oh, he says, as it doesn't. Right, that goes like that. Stay. Right, that goes like that. Now we want the front wings. Oh. I'm not going to put the whole thing together just yet, but just probably quite a lot of it, but not all of it. Okay, we'll let that dry for a little while. Might put the bonnet on actually, wherever it is, there it is, because I think that will help get all the rest of this into place. Oh, he says as it won't go on. Oh, come on, you all went together a minute ago. Okay, right, we'll let that dry for a minute, and then I think we'll put some varnish on it. Right, I just gave this a quick spritz of gloss lacquer. Now we're going to put the rest of the decals on, all 4 of them. But I'll just do one just quickly just to show you. I know I showed you one earlier, but we'll just do one quickly. I think we will do one of the number plates. Let's just separate these ones. Right, so I've got my little wax burner over there with some water in it. Let's give that a little soak for a second. Try not to punch the camera on the way past. Bit of the old Mr. Marks setter. And this one goes on the front wing. About there somewhere. Alright. Pop that on there. That's a nice thing about these, they're all tiny. Which is in some ways a good thing, and in other ways it's a nuisance, but let's try and get that somewhere near straight. Something like that, I think. And I don't know if that might need to go down a bit. I think that's a bit more like it there. Oh, as he moves it. Oh, I've moved it again. Oh, good grief. Just put the decals on, they said. It'll be fun, they said. There we go, that's more like it. Right, that's that one. Oh dear. You'll also notice I've attached the door. I've got this door ajar, just because I thought it'd be more interesting. So, but there you go, that's that decal on. I'll put the rest of them on. Then I'm going to give it another coat of gloss lacquer, and then we'll do some weathering. We're actually not far from being finished on this. Right, so this varnish has had a chance to dry, and now we're going to use some of this panel line just to go around some of the wooden bits and pick out some of the lines and whatnot, just to make them stand out a bit more. we'll probably remove quite a lot of this afterwards, but it's just to give it a little bit more of a grimy look. We'll do the inside as well. Because there's a very good chance that we're going to have this side showing out. So we'll do that. We're also going to do some on the truck itself. So we'll do the same thing. We're just going to kind of go pretty heavily over most of it, because I want to use this to also streak some of it, just to make it look a bit more grubby. I don't want it filthy, I just want it to look a bit dirty. I'll do some on this side as well. And what I might do, which is something I've done before, is once I put this brown on, is actually get some black and mix that in, because the trouble is with this dark brown is it's sometimes not dark enough. So in certain areas we'll use some black as well, just a little bit, like here on these on these vents. And again, we'll take most of this off, but it's just to darken it a little bit. So just like that, really. Like that. We'll let that dry, and then we'll streak it. Right, so that's dried now. What I've got here in this little pot is some of this, oh, if I get it out of the camera. This is White Spirit, just a cheap generic brand, which came from Wilco's, I believe, who are no longer with us, unfortunately. And I've also got this brush. This is just a cheap fan brush. This came from the works. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the brush in the White Spirit, and I'm going to just dry it off almost completely on a piece of tissue, and then use that and just go very, very lightly over the surface, and just use that just to create some streaks. Hopefully you can see that. And I'll do the same on this side. On this side I'm going to start from the bottom and go to the top, because obviously if this is open, then it will be, you know, like the bottom of it becomes the top, if you like. So, and obviously you can use whatever type of brush you want. I just like using this one to start with, because you can see what it's done. It's created like a nice it just lets you do more of it at once. So that will do for that one. And we're going to do the body as well, and we're going to do the same thing here. So we'll just get a bit more White Spirit on there, and again just dry most of it off, and then just go down the side like that and just create some streaks. And if there's bits where it's too heavy like that, you can just literally just wipe it off. Like so. You can see on this side it's quite heavy, so we can just wipe most of it off. I'll say you don't need to go mad with it. It's just to create a bit of grime on it. That's really all we want to do. like that. And then we're going to take a cotton bud. Actually, I'm going to use one of these pointed ones. Do the same thing, just wet the cotton bud and then dry most of it off, and we can get in and clean up these vents a little bit, because we don't want them too dark. Just a bit more like that, so you can actually see the detail of the vent. So I think that's probably not far from what we need. So I'll just do a little bit more, just touch it up here and there. And then I think we can put some matte lacquer on this, and then we can think about putting the wheels on. Right, so I just sneezed and now my nose is running, so that's fun. But what I'm going to do now, this matte varnish has pretty much dried. I'm going to take the unmask the windows before I go any further. So actually, I'll put my glasses on before I go any further, so I can see what I'm doing. Let's get this off. Hopefully, we can get this off without too much aggravation. I've got to be very careful with this door. I don't pull the blooming door off, taking the tape off. Right, that's one bit. Right, let's get this bit off the inside of the window. Right, that looks all right, doesn't it? So I'll unmask the rest of this, and then we'll put the wheels on, I think. Right, so that's all unmasked, and as you can see there, I've just painted the windscreen wiper, which was hilarious, as you can imagine. So wheels are next. Now these wheels, hopefully you can see that, but they are sagged on the bottom. So it's basically a square hole, and there's a square peg on the end of the rear axles. And so what we need to do is, when we put the wheels on, is make sure that the sagged bit goes to the bottom. So, which sounds like, you know, well, of course it does, but it's very easy to get it wrong. So let's see how well we can do with this. I'm going to use this Rebel contactor and hope it doesn't go everywhere. We shouldn't want a lot. That should be more than enough. So wheel flat to the bottom, and let's pop that on there. Make sure it's straight, which it isn't. There we go. All right, that's one down, 3 to go. Now for the front wheels, what they've done, which is actually a very good idea, the end of the, oh hang on, let me get a pointy thing, that'll do. The end of the axle, the stub axle, is actually rounded over, which means you can put the wheel at an angle if you want to, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So let's get our next wheel ready with the flat side down, and I'm going to put a bit of an angle on these wheels just to for a bit of interest, that's all. It's the same reason I did the door open, it's just, you know, to make it a bit more interesting. Right, that's like that, and then we'll just turn that wheel slightly like that, you see. And now what we need to do is make sure the wheel is vertical like that. Now I'm going to leave those to dry because I need to turn it over and do the other side, and I don't want to knock these ones. So I'll leave this to dry for a minute, and then I'll put the other ones on. And then I think we've got to put the top on, but aside from that, oh, the back tailgate. We'll put the wheels on, we'll put the tailgate on, and then I think we can, we'll be ready to wrap this up, I think. Right, this is all dry now. So the last thing I'm going to do, I'll put the tailgate on, by the way. Can't remember if I mentioned that or not. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cover on, and I think once that's on, we can basically wrap this one up and move on to the bike. Now I have had this cover on and off a couple of times, so I know it fits. Oh, but I'm really, this is going to be the time where it breaks, you watch, or I do something horribly wrong with it. Oh, because the last time I put it on, I didn't have the wheels on, and it was a lot easier to hold. The trick is this piece here, getting this over the side. That's the difficult bit. That side's okay. It's just this side. Because what you've got to do is kind of get all the way down there and then try and do that. It's kind of annoying because it doesn't fit very well. There's like there's a gap there, but it's just, that's just how it is. I wonder if I can get that to sit down a bit, because this side's not too bad. I've got to be careful I don't knock this tailgate off. See, it feels like this whole thing should go forwards a bit, because if you look, it's not particularly over the front very well either, but it is in the right place. So if you look at the back there, I don't know if you can see that very well, but if you look at the back there, it's in the right place. But yeah, oh well, it is what it is. Right, I think that will do. Now I'll just put that down very carefully, and that will do for that. So what we want to do now is move on to the bike. Right, so I have started on the bike. I've done a few little bits off camera. I stuck the forks, the handlebars onto the forks, and I have primed the whole thing black. Because this isn't really, well, I could spray paint it, but it'd be an absolute nightmare. So a lot of this is going to be brushwork. And to start with, we're going to use this chainmail, which I believe is now called bolt gun or something like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to give the engine a little bit of a dry brush, just to get us started. And mainly we're starting with this because dry brushing is obviously a slightly messy process. And so what we want to do is do that first, so that if we get anywhere we don't want it, we can clean it up. So, oh, glasses would help. Right, but we want to focus primarily on the engine. And we want to do a fairly hefty dry brush, because the bottom half of the engine is primarily like raw metal. I think it's aluminium, I'm not 100% sure. We'll do a little bit on the cylinder head. The cylinder head is black, but I just want to do a little dry brush on it just to pick out some of the details. Not that there's a great deal of detail on it, but we might as well make the most of what there is. Right, I think that will do. That's a good start. Right, so I've got my wet palette out here. I'm keeping it out of the way of the camera because the camera has a tendency to focus on it. And I'm going to use this XF62 Olive Drab to do all the body work. And what I'm doing here, or what I'm going to do, or what I'm trying to do, oh god, if I get the lid of the paint off, is it's a technique that used to be very popular for miniature painting. And basically what you do is you kind of almost like manually highlight the various bits and let the black create the shadows for you. So I'll try and demonstrate. I don't know how well this is going to come out, but we'll give it a go. But what I'm doing is I'm just hitting the high points with the brush. Probably helps if I loaded the brush properly, but still. I hope you can see what I'm doing there, because I appreciate this is not the easiest thing in the world to see. But like I said, what we basically do is just go around and hit all the high points with the colour coat. We might have to give it a few coats in places, but primarily what we want to do is let the black sort of do all the heavy lifting. Hopefully you can see that all right. Like I say, this used to be a very popular way of painting, of like speed painting miniatures back in the day. I don't know if people still do it or not, but it certainly used to be very popular back in the day. Because it was a way to, you didn't have to worry about missing bits, because the black would take care of it. The trouble is with this Tamiya paint is it's not ideal for brush painting, but seems to be working too, not too bad. So right, well, hopefully that'll give you an idea. I'll do the rest of it, the tank and the forks and whatnot, and we'll go on from there. Right, now I'm going to use this wood brown to do the seat, which according to the pictures is canvas, or has some kind of canvas cover on it. Oh, if I can get the lid off the paint. Right, this is probably going to take a few coats. The trouble is with this wood brown is it really doesn't cover very well. A lot of the Revel Aqua colours actually work really well, but this one just doesn't. It just really doesn't cover. So you have to end up applying many like thin coats to actually get it to cover, which is a little annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But this gives you an idea of what I'm doing anyway, so I'll keep putting these on, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Right, that's the seat done. And for the exhaust pipe, we're going to use this NATO Black XF69. Stop laughing at the back. And again, we don't need to go crazy with this, it's just to differentiate it between the black of the frame. Like that. And what I'm going to do as well, while I've got this out, is I'm going to do the grips on the handlebars, which is going to be hilarious. There we go. And while we've got the bars out, I'm going to go back to this chainmail and do the levers. Right, let's see if we can do this. That went better than expected. Right, that's those, and also I'm going to do the petrol cap as well. Oh. Like that. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit this with some gloss varnish, and then I'll put a wash on the engine. And I think we'll be nearly done with it then. Right, there we go. I stuck the forks on as well, just because I could. And I'm going to use some of this black panel line to do the, just to go over the engine, just to help hide any crimes, as Adam Savage so eloquently puts it. Just a little bit like that, you see. So it doesn't take a lot, because obviously with the dry brush it's done a lot of it anyway. There we go. So what we'll do is we'll let that dry, then we'll hit it with some matte varnish, and then I think we can wrap this whole thing up. And here are our finished articles. These weren't terrible to build, they weren't great. The roof on both vehicles gave a bit of trouble, but you know, it is what it is. The bike doesn't want to stand up, there you go. But I think they've come out all right. I made a few little modifications to them with doors and wheels and things like that, which the kit does allow for. I also opened up the bonnet on the Bedford because I could, and there's an engine in there, so you might well be able to see it. But hopefully you're all enjoying this so far. I'd like to take a moment as ever to thank my top tier patrons, Howard, Amy and Hawaii Clive-O, for their continued support, and of course all my other patrons and channel members and all you lovely people at home. It is very much appreciated. So yes, hopefully you're enjoying this little series. We've still got the figures to do and of course the base, so you've got that to look forward to. But in the meantime, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye.